thereabouts will go to school, speak, and then somebody will laugh at them. At the age of maybe 6, 7, when they come here, they go to kindergarten. So it's a bit different, right? For someone who is over the age of 10, they go to the class and the setup and everything is different. And the cultural shock, is a bit different for someone who is maybe 5 or 6, right? Because of their social concept. The other thing also is that or class are even the subjects are trained and how it's taught and also are very different. Therefore, it also becomes a different ballgame they have to struggle with, even for someone who is a bit older and then someone who is much younger. So those are some of the challenges that it comes with for those that will bring them in. The other thing also is that, we talk about trauma, people going through things at different stages. Here's the thing though. Obi America and also Obi Etukwanya, it is a good news for them. So yes, they are very excited coming, traveling, period, from Africa to anywhere else. Or it could even be within Africa. They are very excited traveling for the most part. But here's the thing, they get there and then they realize it's not really all full of milk and honey, right? They tend to realize the challenges and all that. Therefore, how to balance it can be very difficult. If not managed well, then it can lead to other problems, right? The other thing also is that when they're a bit older, around the age 13, 15, 17, thereabouts, it's like, okay, I've gone through this hassle so much. Now I am at the promised land. Therefore, I have to explore everything that there is and be me, right? So all the limitations, all the things that they were not able to go through when they were in Ghana and much younger, or Bahasi now, that is when they were going to explore it all. And as a parent, right, the challenges of raising an African child in diaspora. As a parent, you bring your kid because you want a better future for them, right? For the most part, that is the goal. So when the kids start to do certain things which does not align with your presets or your beliefs, values, and all of that, then you want to jump on it, right? But here are some of the challenges. Me, as a father who has a 17-year-old, most definitely the generational gap, is huge, right? And most likely, I also grew up in Ghana for my child to be in Ghana and be like 17 or 15. So, no, you're right. So for them to come, I probably grew up in a time where not Vodafone it was the only phone network, right? And I also said that you should not get 3310. And right now, there are variations. And I'm saying this to say that most of the technological gap, one thing that you have to bridge. The social media trends and everything, that is something that you can't catch up with. And to say the young one try to explore all these avenues to catch up with their friends and all of that, it may be a challenge for you. I've seen parents who will say, Anna, they be out the phone. So it is true. I'm not saying it's okay or it's good for them to always be on the phone. But what it is that for now, they can even do some of the assignments on the phone. So the fact that they are on the phone, or the question begs is, what are they doing on the phone? Not just because they are on the phone, right? But there was navigating it becomes very difficult. The other thing also is that they come here, they try to explore, and then it's like, no, about 8 abrefie, and also feel this with D17, right? And they can stay out a bit later. So that struggle becomes real. Now, part of the struggle also, we try to use the same tone, the same measure, and all of that in trying to correct our children. I didn't mention this earlier, but I also work with the youth at various levels. So I've seen a thing or two when it comes to parents working with their kids. There is nothing like, unless extreme cases. I'm not saying that it makes anyone a bad parent, right? But then that is what they know best, and that is what they're doing. I know of some young ones who are around the ages of 15, 16, 17, still getting whooped by their father, right? That is very difficult for that child because now it puts so much in their mind. One, two, it creates some tension between you and the father, no, and the child, no. And three, so no, socially, everybody is talking about how free they are and how they enjoy their freedom and everything. And then he feels so confined. Mentally, so no, it's not good for that child. It doesn't make him very strong. Now, we also dealing with the challenges. We are from Africa, right? And it is true that there is a difference between us and them, right? There's a difference between us and them. So one thing is that most parents, the challenge is that I don't want to raise a child who is like them, right? And when I say them now, I guess you know who I'm referring to because we're talking about the African child or the African home versus. So you don't want to raise a child like them. That is one thing. The other thing also is that we don't have the privileges that they do have. So if even you come here much younger, you are very fluent and all that, yes, still there is a difference, right? And no matter how high you rise, still the question will be asked, where are you originally from? That question always has, it reminds you, say, right? You're not part of us. So there is that ceiling. So for you to be able to break that ceiling, you have to come out exceptional. Okay, but then how you also communicate that with the child for them to understand and hold that value, is also very important, and how you navigate it. So now that is partly part when it comes to for those that we bring, the hybrid ones. So now for those that are born here, the challenges for the most part are very similar when it comes to how the parent perceives certain things. In most cases, human beings, not in most, all cases, human beings are social beings, right? And our environment affects. Yes.
Yeah. Before we move into the part of those that are born here, let me ask you a couple questions concerning those that are brought over here. Could it necessarily be said the parents are actually, raising them not necessarily to be like those that are here, but just to still keep that culture inclination in them to say, this is the doctrine, this is the culture, this is how we grew up, this is how we go about things. But person will be shy away from that. So I have to install that in you. Not necessarily say probably raised like them, and fully, let go of the culture. And I say that is the main reason why people want to do that. I'm just asking, could they be the culture?
They don't want to raise them like them, right? They don't want to raise their kids like them. So it's not like they try to raise their kids like them. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying. Go ahead.
So why they don't want to raise their kids like them? Yes, the culture is one of it, right? Because even as a parent, you're thinking about the fact to say you don't want your child to Americanize so much to where in America, papa na mama go to nursing home, right? So as part of your thought process, may retire Ghana. If I don't instill that Ghanaianness in you, right? When I'm older, what is going to become of me? And as I said, for your child to be around that age before they come, it means you are fairly older. And if you are behind now with social security, and you build up, 401k, and you're strongest, and just as it was in Ghana, and I said it is still for some people, your kids are your social security and your 401k. And say why I'm installing all of that in them? Now say they don't have the understanding and the concept to say, also my parents are. Then you stand that risk, say, what will become of you? So that is one of the things. The other thing also is that you also know very well that there are some values in your culture that you want them to uphold, right? So for that reason, you want to imbibe that values, and I said those values, in the children so much. And there is nothing wrong with it because that is part of what identifies us, our culture. So there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing is the management and the how of how we go about all these things, are important.
All right, me that's it.
No,
me that's it. Into the you proceeded to and I think so if anybody has any question concerning those that are raised here and those that are brought over now, again you can write it in the comment section and I'll ask, or if you're on Facebook or YouTube now, you can ask and I'll just ask for you. Then after that we just open the phone line for people to the Zoom line for people to just ask the question verbally if they want to. So what up those that are born here now?
Okay, so for those that are born here, right, the challenge starts very early because one, Osakra, and you try to raise that Akrano. So it becomes very difficult sometimes. Now, you're coming from a background where childcare is really not a challenge or was not a challenge, right? What I mean by that is, Director David Enyi, so data back and that's why OEDB pa. But then I don't think that the parent has so much challenge as to finding a babysitter and as I said childcare. There was always someone around who will help take care of the child, right? That communal system, that societal influence on families and children, now you are in an environment where 3 days, 5 days, near you, coffee. And at that point, you are on your own. So it's part of why the postpartum blues, depression, and psychosis sometimes happen so much, because for the lack of support, you tend to stress so much, and then it might take you into depressive mode, right? So that level of stress, from birth in Ankasa, right? So, and only a first thing. Second thing is, as you raising them, I worked on the management level, and I saw how challenging it is for people without childcare, to the extent that they even lose their job because they call us so much. School a delay into what you mean by once and no affair. And as I said, school is cancelled. He or she has no other options. So it affects them. There's nowhere to be home with that kid or take them to the hospital. Therefore, they have to call off. So it becomes a struggle. Right, so the struggle gets real with even childcare in Ankasa, the lack of support. So with that, then you try to put them through school, right? And then through school, it is also believed or is said that the early stages of a child is very, very important in their development. So when you're taking them to daycare and any other, you want to be careful and mindful of which daycare, which means that quality also is expensive. Therefore, you have to put them in a good one and pay more. And by so doing, also, you have to work so much extra, right? So now, finding the balance of providing your child with a good childcare system, including school, right? Because it gets to a time where they get to a school-going age and they want to put them through school. You're choosing a good school district, which means that real estate in that area, and whether apartments or houses, are more expensive, right? So it means that it puts more pressure on you to be able to get more money and then provide the best for the kids. And in doing so, you're losing on either one. Either you spend more time looking for money and less time spending with the kids, or you spend more time with the kids and then don't have enough to also take care of the kids. So it becomes a hard balance, right? So striking that balance is difficult. Next thing, once again, the standards, right? As an African and an African parent, some standards that I want my kids to uphold. Oh, Anna, who is it? A DA is something very important, especially for us Africans. So for an African, for you to bear their name, it is huge. And yet Brown, Obiaye Brown, right? Mr. Brown, no Obiaye Mr. Brown. And as I said, lukewarm. Now there are too many lukewarms and it doesn't have any identity, right? So you bought Ebia, you bought Jamra Ebusia, Efi Sunyania. It is like tied to an identity. Therefore, Sister Jamra has to make sure, say, anyone of a descent, have to uphold certain standards. Oh, even no matter where you are in the world. Anything that's a you'd want to dig into only pakrona or to bedino. Now say the one who fear of few money, they were a fear city and son up in the crop to bedin. So our names are not just names for identification in terms of yetimi by name, but it is also identifying in terms of standards, ethics, morals, and all of that. For that reason, even when you are raising your child here, though born here, you still want to imbibe those values, in them. To where so baby, to me, it opposes that good name, right? That and as that reputation that has been built. So that is also another challenge, right? Because that reputation, yes, it's true here, but then the value here, for the child, now I won't know you who is the same way as Ghana and I say Africa, Abba has it, right? So that becomes a challenge at some point. The other thing also for some people becomes the language barrier. So Ubo say Akrano, born here, growing up here, yes, you try to speak your local dialect with the child, right? But then through the system, they pick up the language now on them. And I don't want to just say English because maybe I'm not French for and I say German for. So they pick up that language, right? And it gets to a point where now, say me bro for your papa, the metiana make it. And when the child starts to like shy away from the tree language now, well, now for the bro for the more. Now, communication becomes a problem. As I mentioned earlier, I work with the youth a lot. And there is one youth who told me, said, part of the problems that she has with her parents, is mostly because of communication. Because the way Obesia can any the way a parent it becomes a challenge. Before they realize they say, actually, she wasn't being disrespectful, but it was just an American child talking, right? And I know many people know so now it's not even the tone or the how. It is the fact that certain words they don't understand, the parents. So it becomes a challenge. The next thing also your school system. I mentioned briefly earlier in terms of trying to put them in the best school. I don't know what. The next thing about the school system, they say, once I have obey school, more or less on an echo. Me make site to know na enya menem mami and menem papa na echo. You go, you get your assignment, you come home, you do it, you go, you submit it, right? But has an idea, you have to be involved. I cried by so you the parents have to sign off on the assignment. And if you don't have that dedication in terms of time and everything to be part of their schooling now, then you realize it becomes very difficult for them and then also for you. It was these the activities now yes, you're trying to work so hard to be able to provide certain level of standards for them, but then by so doing it comes with these extracurricular activities which also requires your time, and it becomes very difficult. Games. I think December, there was a problem between a mother and a child where the child was accusing. At this point, Nakrane knew, born here, grown up, right, when he in his 30s or so. But then he was accusing the mother of not attending his games when he was in middle school and high school. And it becomes a huge problem between the two of them. And it still is since December, since February, right? So that also becomes a challenge, you balancing that, right? But then Akranison says, because at that point, you being present is more important to him than the presence that you present him or her, right? Into the say, so yes, you can work hard and all that and provide him with all the presence, but then he or she wants you to be also present in everything that they do. So that also becomes a challenge. The other thing also is keeping up with his peers. So yes, he's from this background, but then he also, for this time, please permit me to use the locality. He's also an American. Okay, so he feels that he wants to act American, but then you also see him to be more of a Ghanaian. Yet, Ubusani say Ufi here or say Mifi Ohio and I say Mifi New Jersey, right? So that identity crisis, comes in at times where they also think of themselves and say, "Am I really a Ghanaian or an American?" Because since I say my Pine or Mackenzie me, I'm not like me quite American for I say, where are you originally from? Or where are your parents from? Within Ghana, and also make us say, me I say right? Even when you take them to Ghana, they speak and then they quickly it's like So that challenge.
Why you from Koto Ghana no munya one your friend say a definition ana.
No, because so they no Koto Ghana Krampona story only one definition, and that's identity, right? Because may a Ghana ni because you're from Ghana. I may hold American passport, but still that doesn't identify my nationality, in my opinion, right?
No, I was being funny saying that, but at the same time, I'm serious a little bit because see, yeah,
Right.
now say who feels say who baby won't even define your identity. And as I said, yeah, young who you better go Ghana, no what now, who soon you now, but at that time, no this identity there, and as you who are saying, yeah, the walk or rock or trawa, who the 18 years of our final who we are not with but then the Oba will be able to say. Infernal fee now about Ghana side as well. Yeah, have issue with accent because okay, say better because I said Obi David say on take German back kra. And so you would know Germany. What I say, don't need to say Papa did a very good service to him because now I feel about that, you know.
Is that an assumption? Because this is the second time I think of him here a lot of like wild projections that are not baseless. But sure, go ahead.
Okay, into the back to the point, you know. And at the end of the day, no, how is that gonna work? Because it's gonna make it look like say this is what it is, but then who complaining? Why are you complaining? I think some no complaining, no, it makes it a little bit.
I don't think he's saying they're complaining. What he's saying is a valid point. A lot of times, based on, I mean, you cannot say young will be out Ghana. That is a bit of a stretch, right? Because of life, we're here, things happen, you have children here. But let's be very sincere. One point that he said is like spot on. You can live in the system and you could assimilate as much as you can. Or last name, Uko schools are. Sometimes the people go like, how? Oh yeah, why? What did I say? Or if you're in Ghana, even if you speak Twi or that, you can even speak Twi as fluent as you can. Or Ghana, still, even maybe your standard of living or your exposure, that's how no will come across. That's the point he's being. I don't think the intention for the child.
No, but this is the case whereby the kids are saying, say, Obu Kasa or Ghana for more. One thing about young Ghanaians is paying for no. They make the kids uncomfortable. Yes, and Phil, tell me, say you've never heard that in church when some Ghanaian parents are really wild on Obineba, Auntie Chi Papa. And this is something that is happening. So the kids have a problem with that. They complain to that fact. Okay. I've heard them complain in the church so many times. Say, why do Ghanaian parents always come so hard on them? But at the same time, on the school side, you're also having that kind of, your friends said, culture shock, and that's basically it's a serious thing. I think say I'm not saying say it's bad and good, but we have to find a balance because it happens.
And that is the point. And that is the point I'm making. Say, as a parent, being aware and being cautious of it, is very important. And that is the point I'm making here, right? It's not, we're not getting into the pros of or cons of either one, right? But then I'm making the point that it happens. It is a challenge. You, the parent, have to be aware and be very cautious in navigating and managing it for the kid, That is the point I'm making. So now I always tell the young ones, and they say, when someone is to ask you, say, where are you from? It is okay to say yes, either you are from America or you are from Ghana, right? But then personally, I always tell my kids, say, you are Ghanaian, okay? But then still, depending on who is asking them, sometimes they will tell them, say, or you're American. What do I say? For me, and yeah, there maybe no two chinchina say chinchina castle of Ghana, and then we're gonna have a battle on that one, right? But the important thing is that don't ever be ashamed of your Ghanaian descent. What am I saying? And the fact is, if you Ghana, no, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. If you want to know, our names are too long, right? There is nothing wrong with your name being too long. If you want to know, for some of the parents here, this is Owusu Kwate, right? Then of course, then the teachers will be like, oh, why is your name so long? And as I said, the kids need to know. Because, oh, how do you pronounce your name? I always tell them is that the name is of English alphabet. On use English now for body. Maybe your accent now the better so be different. Or for you to me, Sana Mekano. You know, for you to my what? Yes, it's still the same. But you don't even try, and they ask me, how do you say your name? English is they are true, and yet tree, and yet gun. What am I saying? So the alphabets are in English. Say it. When you get it wrong, I'll correct you. So be proud of the name that you have. Be proud of that African heritage now, and soldier on. And there is nothing wrong with it. So it's vibing that pride in them of their heritage and their baby or mufino. Very important to also boost their self-esteem and identity. Okay. Members will be so mentor so and I say we're taking questions as we go along.
Things about you can proceed. You have your hand. She's had a hand up.
Yeah, about Manisa so
Yeah.
So I'm muting.
Yeah, so I just have a contribution. And one thing I've noticed is that it's when you go to the UK or the UK kids that I've come across, whether they're from Ghana, Nigeria, the Middle East, as long as their parents are from a foreign country, Ubusa must say, where are you from? They always mention where their family come from. That's the people in UK. That's what I've noticed. When you come to America, kids are quick to say, I'm from Ghana, but my parents, but my family is from, they'll say, I'm American, but my family is from Ghana. And I find it very interesting as to why. I saw a clip of these youth being interviewed, and they were asking foreigners in America, like minority kids in America, where are you from? And they were literally laughing at them for saying that they're Americans. They're like, no, where are you from? Where's your origin? Where's your, And I guess it comes down to we're speaking as Ghanaians, but it comes down to a lot of these kids with the Black Americans who are here, because even those in the Caribbean, they will say that, my family is from Jamaica, but I was born in America. So I think it's up to us parents to educate our kids to make, and they're lucky now in this era because Africa is the place to be. Everybody wants a piece of Africa. So a lot of these kids now are more proud to say that I'm from Ghana. They, I'm starting to see a little change in their tone of voice or in their tone of expression. They're starting to show their pride in coming from the continent. So I think it does start from home and us making the kids feel as if, like PK, I'll go back to what PK had said. Sometimes the pressure to say or pronunciate the words correct, and then then we are laughing at them, so the kids will feel shy, or, when it comes to our dressing. But nowadays, these kids are embracing the culture. They are excited. The kids that I come across who were once shy to even say I'm from Ghana or I'm from Nigeria are now Afrocentric to the fullest. So I'm glad we're having this topic, but I just want to add in most UK kids will always
Phil. Because we're meeting, Mr.
Yeah.
Phil, tell me, come. Okay, so thanks for Bob. I think I was telling you about to go ahead and speak, but now you're meeting with Director David did the job for me. And then they for me co-host here, Director David Why. So back to no, I said I was muted, so I was speaking, but I was muted. But you did tell about to go ahead and speak into Thanks for holding that. But the point that I want to make, and then they say, this topic is very, very sensitive, okay? And at the same time, I feel it can get you a little bit emotional. I don't know say if it's just we the Africans that always have a problem with somebody not being good or fluent in English. Near Sereno, the tier one tier brofo. And I say Obiba and tree papa. So we just have to make fun of our colano. So then again, like I said, I see that at churches or Ghanaian events so many times.
Yep.
And it's very like me, I'll tease Director Davis on T3, right? But it's funny, one day I teased them, I got off the show, somebody called me. Now we treat you there. I'm like, I think
I don't know where these are coming from about, like, I'm very confused about doctor. There's a lot of
Director, I mean, we point. I'm not in it. Yeah, you saw as example, not the problem. Yeah, now
a lot of examples today, I'll tell you that.
A class graduates, Dr. Bato Kraka is Ochinya there. You didn't, yes, from him.
Me person me address you about point be.
Yeah. No, me the call about the no. Me the call about the because it came in and I have to just add it to it. So with that being said, as you are addressing that particular way, how can you also address with the parents? If your parents, how we should also handle Nkolano when it comes to Obin Tichi, that we have to make a big one. And Nkolano so echo school now say some of those questions are how can we address it? Sana parents, although those of us that are parents, can find better way to tell the kids when they go to school and they ask those questions. Now, yes, also parents would know how yem can send be a bit. My Nkolano feel say, you know what, for our casa, and I feel I'm in the pre because maybe she had the best shame with the words now.
Right. PK, okay. Doctor, 1 second. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. But what Oba said about the European black kids and American black kids, I think the only difference is you can trace where the blacks in Europe came from. It's pretty straightforward. Like, hey, you're Jamaican, you're Caribbean, you could be second or third or fourth generation, but you know who your uncle is, right? And growing up in Europe, being black, you go to other black kids' homes, there's like a core sense of immigration, right? You're a descendant. If you're raising an African kid here, like depending on where you live, it's more challenging than a black kid in Europe. Significantly challenging. Because one, he's battling with this like the core hierarchy of, I don't want to use the word, but like disparity. Let's just say disparity, right? There's that hierarchy. And then Oba said it before, said like right now Africanism is cool. I remember when I came to college, I don't know any of you guys heard this term, African booty scratcher. I didn't even know what it was.
And that is one of the things I was going to mention.
I didn't understand why. I didn't see anybody scratch it, but I never knew what that even meant, right? Okay. But as time goes on, where it's like, there's introduction of Afrobeats, then this and that. If you look at Europe and you look at America, right? Europe is more receptive to Africanism, Pan-Africanism than it is America. Now it's cool. I mean, you watched NFL yesterday. We shot the commercial in Ghana, which is cool, right? Dirty December, there are a lot of people coming in. So it's like, it's cool now, sort of how Jamaica became a vacation spot, right? You see how go call Ghana crowd to me, boy, during Christmas, all of that. So I know PK is saying like, there's also a sorry, you're getting pressure with your tree is good. And it's like sort of like a soft competition with the tree channel or XYZ, right? But if you look at it closely, the kid here is under a lot of pressure. I'm talking about from school. You touched on it, how you appear. The kids at school said, why aren't you wearing Jordans? Right, you getting teased from that. You have to deal with that. Now they're Biffy. Now Biffy like, so these kids are under more scrutiny than ever. But to say they're like, I think things are getting lighter because one thing about Ghanaians and Nigerian kids that doesn't care. You have to name their entire name. And they will stand by it, right? And they were teased and they survived it, and now we come along. But I think Oba has a fantastic point as far as the kid. I think the kids have more scrutiny than Europe. Because Europe didn't follow home. Like, oh, I have a Ghanaian friend. I have a Kenyan friend, all of that. Here, not so much. And some parts of the country, no. Like, are you Nigerian or XYZ? So, like, yeah, doctor, please proceed. It's okay. It's wild.
Yeah, I think the director can't most of what I was going to say. But here's the thing, though. When you even go to Europe, right, those in England, and I know we have some Europeans on here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this was my observation. Those in England even refers to the others as Europe kids, right? Like Germany, Italy, and stuff, right?
That is true.
So you realize they said even there, within Europe, there is that a Europe. And one thing I also noticed in Europe, they said
They call us continents.
Continent. Okay. Those continent referred kids, spoke better Ghanaian languages, like their mother tongue, than those even in England. Right? Into about point now, yes, it's very true. But then even within the whole Europe system, the Crampono, England, therefore, no, as good as the continent kids, and it's partly because of points now Director David making. When you come to America now, couple of things. In addition to what the Director mentioned, the African Buddhist culture and all that, the other things, they say, I have said, melting pot in here so much, like too many things coming together to melt. And after the Ababe confused identity, stronger, than most other places. For that reason, it's easier for them to align with, okay, be American, case closed, you're moving on, right? So that I don't have to answer too many questions about my ancestry and my
are you talking about the Ghanaians than I said the other part of minorities now? What kind of Africans are the other part of minorities now? What kind?
I'm talking about Africans because I think that is the Africans.
Oh, okay, no. Okay, so because I'm American, you moving on, and I'm able to say which after you made the point about melting pot. Okay, go ahead.
Right. So that is part of the reasons why, right? The other thing is to say, America is sold as like a place to belong, right? So the identity as an American is much stronger. Therefore, everybody want to say me American. Even minimum be on ma or Bakokra college. Ghana answered Oba Hasi. But they want to claim more American than Ghanaian. Ghana, so the way they even rubbish it down and everything, because America is superior. And that is how America are told. And that is what we all know. And that superiority, like it is a sense of belonging and a sense of power to say be for America. When more and more international so Mushiana say other continents, Ebanes America for the woman, look at how they act, right? And these are some of the things that gets ingrained in us, unconsciously or consciously, and then we start to act them out. And then we see these in the kids. When we see it in the case, it seems like, I know more too much, but what the bump in affordable crumple now, it's also evident. So those are some of the reasons I wanted to add to the director kind of about Oba's point, but very solid points made there. So now back to the identity issue. First, but wearing Africa wear crown was an issue, right? I can't remember. I said for me, like, maybe I just say
no. I say very much. I agree because I was about to go there. Now, to identity audio twice.
Okay, for me, say no. For some years now, me Africa wear quite. And I remember one day I was coming from work and then somebody like me question Madam they was like, I hope you never know see me film. I was the way no do and I'm saying, yeah, how this casual burden down African printer I measure. And he couldn't understand why I made a no be my thinking is that people, one, really like it. Two, they get to ask me more about where you're from. And I get the opportunity to tell them, right? And but then before you are looked at I said I should too many colors and then they share we because you could share be the after the about a trend obi apedashiki ni bi share
okay,
so to identify no because
go ahead.
Okay, so to identify as an African, it was a bit more difficult then. But now, due to too many other circumstances, including the year of return and all of that, and the post year of return events, I'm much easier. So when we having these discussions, let's not have it just in the present, but let's also look back at the history and some of the circumstances surrounding it. Now, back to raising these kids, we are social beings, and our environment and society shapes who we are. There are certain things that we do, certain things or certain ways we act because of how we're raised. Even in Ghana, right? For those who grew up in the South or are from the South, or more kasa, or more tone different from those from the North. Northerners usually don't have a conversation shouting and all that, right? But then those from the South, for some reason, I have my theory, but it's not founded into me fan to say. But for some reason, those from the South, we raise our voice. And we raise our voice not just because we are angry, but as an emphasis. And let me give you this example, right? Either when we go to PK's place, my junior brother's place, and I say anywhere we meet our siblings, when we have a conversation and it gets really like excited, I'm not talking about heated or excited now, the kids will come up and be like, why are you guys fighting? One of them, why are you guys fighting? And that's why you guys shouting. Then you have to explain to them, you're not shouting, you're trying to have a conversation. So I'm making this point to say that in raising our kids, when we raise our voice at them now, for them, they see it as we yelling at them. But for us, so we're looking at it as we're making an emphasis on the point we're making. One difference now we're making. So for some of us, it becomes a challenge because, okay, but who said sometimes it gets to a point where we raise your voice, but not machine. If you haven't paid attention and look at it, right, as they become traumatized by that tone, and you try to make a conscious effort that you not raise your voice at the kids. But as I also said, Sada wakasa na sana odienyi, hey, jai oh, you just try to make an emphasis that, and yes, when immediately ebe kuno and I say ebe prane seriously there, but you just want the child to stop. You could have said it differently, and it will have the same impact on them. But we still have to raise our voice. Oh, and it becomes a challenge because one social setting, and you say incredible enka they are now right? But then it was like a setting, the moderator was just trying to see how they understand their native tongue. But here is the thing though, tree is not a measure of your Ghanaianness. But you use Ghanaianness now, I know saying yeah, but what I say. How well you are as a Ghanaian is not measured by how well you speak tree. Because I can for asante for. If you saw me asante, but me one. So you cannot use how well I speak a Ghanaian language, a particular Ghanaian language, or any Ghanaian language to measure how well I'm a Ghanaian or not. So then the people say, okay, I come back with your say, hey, Jankwasi, now, right? Because you catch and will feel so much, he said, the cure, hey, Jankwasi, that goes to tell you, say, this kind of approach, to how we raise the kids, so sometimes we have to be cautious. The other thing, also, say, monkey see, monkey do. When a kid does something wrong in Africa, for the most part, either you yell at them or you beat them, right? That is part of the measures of correction. There are others that I know we do, but these are what I want to talk about. Now, say about the so on the PS in the Sushia, and also go school, and I say Yibisa. That's a band is on your mood in Kobo. And once again, or Phyllis or a frustrated pair, or also best at Tiatium. And then in that setting, is misinterpreted as being arrogant, being rude, being bossy. Right? I think we've come across this. And two months after that, you start getting complaints from the school, said, Obani a bully. But really, on your bullies are a how on also Asian said, ye castle, and on also ye. And I also said they get frustrated with another child and we no attendance award so. Because anytime my parents get frustrated with me, that is how they correct me. Right? So these are I'm learning recently that it's happening more often. And we have to also once again talk to the kids, and let them know what is behind it, the why, and why it's also very important for them not to repeat those acts at school before they start getting in trouble.
Based on what you just said right now, right? Do you think, say, it would be a better way for parents to just sit with their awards and just let them understand, say, the way I talk to you, doesn't necessarily mean, say, why you're the worst thing in the world, but this is how I've been raised talking. And I said, this is what I learned growing. Into the world, and final personally, sir, and that shouldn't be the same measurement for you to raise. Because I know, sir, with time, right? And I think, sir, even where we are right now, there might be a diffuse to the extent, say, and yet as strong as it used to be, whereby those that were raised in America by African parents in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and then you raised you in the 2000s, going, Then America side and they say, one thing I've realized is that the reason why some of us do yell when we talk is that in your settings, everybody's talking at the same time. So then I want to be heard and I want to make my point across. And to some extent, when I project louder, in order for you to acknowledge me, but in other jurisdiction, almost kasa, obia ye din, obia ti obia, bako kase wiada bako manesaso, na bako kasa na se bako kase wiada bako chime in, and it's so simultaneously, and the transition is so smooth. It's with a lot of Africans being in the corporate world, watching how meetings and conversations go, Socratic discussions happening, right? A bit diffuse the intensity now first war in our settings as time goes on, and yeah, overnight. I think, say, again, it's a suggestion I'm having. Say, is it okay for the parents to also let our kids know, say, it doesn't necessarily mean, say, because, hey, now you've done the worst in the world, I did to the highest degree. But then it's a term I used to define, stop what you're doing. Now, Klano was okay. I don't have to repeat Jankwasa, but then, what can I say? Could there be that kind of way to have that kind of conversation with the kids, and rather than say yes, practice it, they should figure it out. Because, like you said, they'll go to school and they'll take up those same actions, and obi teacher, hey, I would want to tell you obi teacher, but that may not be necessarily the case. But just say the way I teach and me has system name fat because a Ghana school no koka asem na ke normal.
Right, and I think that is the point I'm making, right? That we have to be aware of this and then manage it, right? And with most of the things I'm talking about, that is what I'm setting out to do. Once I bring out what the problem is, the point I'm making is that please manage it. How you manage it may be different from home to home, because Abiana will not from the south where you raise your voice very often, and you may have a different challenge. So just identify what it is, try to manage it. But PK, yes, that is exactly the point. And talking about once again the culture and everything like that. Your last born no air call bus stop, right? She tells me, said the rule is you cannot be on the phone. You know why she gave me that rule? Because I'm more phone, so I make a tree. Right? And I'm person make a tree or bus stop. So I also always make the point there, make a tree. Right, regardless of wherever I know move here, even say me no go school for program or whatever. See, a desk call them check in, and I'm not talking to the person behind the desk, and I have to talk to her or him. Mr. Chikochi, you can answer me in English. I know your whole problem, but then then I'll switch back, and I don't know, for some reason I find it more comfortable speaking Chi with Ghanaians, and that's especially those who understand Chi, than Semeka Brofo. It's just personal, very, very personal. Into the time, and I do that with them. And part of why I also do that with them, especially, is for them to pick up on the language and be proud of themselves. They say we should be able to speak our language or dialect wherever we are without any fear of failure.
Okay.
And I do that very intentionally. But then I also realize that it gets to a point where they don't want me to. And or try so come here and anymore. Oh, I can't remember that sometime in that year driving, I think that we're going to church. And then ye didn't come. Me make I say be Adam Marketry, or ma make I say be no cover for them. Penny was like, I just realized that daddy always speaks she with us, but mommy speaks more English than daddy, right? I don't know what interpretation was, whether I met a brofo see me, which is perfectly fine. Brofo a measure of me, how I'm getting me paid. But I don't know what her interpretation was, but that is where it clicked me, say, I did that May though. They caught on to it, which I was very happy because that was my goal, right? At that point, I had not explained all of it to them, but certain things do also have a person me. I never said if they'll get where I'm coming from. So in this case, she got a message, which is very good. And you know, you know, say papa it's not a problem for her. So how you want to also get the message to the kids, and that's the point I'm making here. How you want to get messages to the kids now is very important, and it may differ from one person to the other, but be very intentional about it. And yes, Anna, you realize you say you're all over the place, and then you're getting them confused, right? You're trying to imbibe in them to be very proud of who they are and where they come from. Yet, when you're in a social setting now, you don't want to speak your language. Is there a misinformation? However you want to interpret it, that is fine. But it might send a message. You may have a very good reason why you do not. So it's important that you also maybe explain it to them, right? And as I mentioned with the name, no, that is a very big thing because that will always give you out. Like if you Wusu Krana, NFL quarterback and now running back, you know, you are so Americanized that nobody will ask you where you're from, right? At some point, you know, we will be saying, Ufi. Therefore, having that pride of where you're from and all of that, you know, is very important as part of your identity. Okay.
Okay.
Then, yeah.
I'm coming to make another point to hold on now.
No, what it was.
Oh no, go ahead. Let me make another point. I'm just about
okay. Okay. Then let me get to where they've gone through the school system. We've hassled with daycare. We've taken them through all of that. We've assisted them through middle school, elementary, middle, and high school, right? With their works, extracurricular activities, and all that. Now, choosing college in Okrampono, and as I said, subjects in Okrampono, no, course. Choosing a course in Okrampono, and also after that, their career choices, you know, becomes a challenge between a typical African parent and then their kids. We always have this problem coming up with our youth in different like youth groups. It is from a good place when our parents are advising the kids what programs to do. It is from a good place, I believe so. But the thing is that we are doing that with the limited knowledge that we have on the vast majority of courses that are available. And you know, say, oh, koye doctor, koye nurse, koye pharmacy, koye say. But then here's my thing, and I have this conversation with my son, especially most of the time. I don't mind who you want to be or what you want to do, but like not going to college is not an option. So whatever you want to do, whether blue collar job, whatever, I don't care. But be the best at what you do and have at least the college degree to back it. That's it. There can be however person do it, right? But then once sometimes, you know, it's more so we say no na. But then we've also realized it say over these years, I've get to observe it. You realize it say some of the jobs have evolved so much. And some jobs are never are now even more lucrative and in high demand than some of the traditional ones. So now student loans, and then you spend most of your life paying student loans, right? And to know it is very important that even at that stage, we try to help them. As we try to help them in navigating that stage, we do it very mindfully. And I made a statement earlier with our limited knowledge. And you know what we can do is we should probably look for someone who understands both where we are coming from and where they are coming from and can help us in navigating that conversation to where we'll all be happy, right? It is not that I don't know my child so well that I can help him choosing what will benefit him or what he thinks will benefit him, because no information no one is skewed. And it is very important that either one, you directly upgrade your knowledge and then use that to educate the child, or you have someone who can help you navigate that conversation. In the same way, so if our children are now able to convince us as to why they want to go a certain direction, then it makes it very difficult for us to also move towards them. Maybe me person be an artist, and a musician, or like will be or draw. Now, like it can be lucrative, I get it, but what is the rate? Where are your points? Like you should be able to answer certain questions for me to know that maybe our person you've really researched and then want to really go there. But if you make certain blanket, it's very difficult for me to also buy in and say okay, yeah, because I don't know our person yet. I had one user that came to me last month and was like, oh, the person me call a PA, physician assistant. And then I was like, I didn't know person yet. Oh, because me person me were into the health field. I was like, there are too many programs in the health field. So why that one? And I don't know, after the process. Into a process, who say, okay, when you're research, and I'm saying, what about MD or NP? Now for the do journal, I'm so okay, Sako, Neko research about Nesabra. Because I don't want to be the one giving you all the options and directing you like without you having that amount of knowledge, Into your research in Naba, and then you have your information now. I can guide you through the information that you have, and then it becomes your decision, right? Because when person may decide about. So I think that steps, and yes, and it creates a lot of confusion. Some cases, I can't go school every, but then when you know who saw a cannot be done so. Now, if they know so about another problem. So, part of the challenges in raising Africans in diaspora are some of what we've enumerated.
Okay.
I think there are much more. If anybody has any questions or any comments, please.
I think let me person get treated disciplining children.
Yes.
But because of time factor, then the better try to be next week, and I say way because disciplines methods. I know nka me do me ba be rema mra me da November pause no. I know nka be the baby said the young that side the who say you still had another point to make this na me home so but right now because of your time factor and we'll probably and again so yes I am sure see intermittent am I create DDR or startup Q&A time. But what I want to say now for the mama will final words about now summarize baby that we just ask the questions. And again when you are ready for your question please unmute yourself, let me know and I will pause for you to go ahead. Also, you did mention about NFL. Other your friend is saying Jeremiah Owusu Koramwa. Like with him per se, right? Make I say mejuma mi wom. Me DP on all my email teams anyway. Me share my favorite picture. Wow, my favorite picture be and one flyer and be me down so with right. And obi friend me say me picture na picture na professional. And I was like, okay, can you tell me what is not professional about the picture? Or say atare na me share no. Or ya atare ben ya. Into honum na me catch nipa say me into no near obetimi akọ above me to go tell the next person. So what happened is me boss in me back aside. And I'm say and you want to catch him say Jeremiah is your favorite football player because of the way he dressed. And is it professional? So, yeah, it's very professional. I like the way he dressed. No, see, na picture been a nipa ne complain. Na me dey chen or say no keep it on. But this is something that back in the days, nipa ne kind no. Nanka no answer makoko ye fi hono because my dream no. And you're professional. And I like the way you were so diplomatic about that. Me na me busa was asked say, I don't know how this shirt in the co ejuma. Because I was confused. I don't know if shared visa I
don't want to call names.
No, that's okay. But I like when things are very pragmatic so that people understand. But the point in this said back then, I'd about always play the chairman, and I was like, you know what? It makes sense. I shouldn't make it look like one me ferry baby and me fee, which I don't. Because everybody that knows me say I don't. I'm very proud and loud about it. But at the same time, I don't want to be there. I don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. Now say, and you want me who too much. But sometimes you have to let people learn through the way you measure it out. Now, talking about your friend to say the whole situation with Nkolano helping them African parents be brave. Me kaise me back from and say fresh out of high school, yes, me konye nursing. Nursing na sika wom. Na me limit call Butler County. Me fit that. First prerequisite I'm saying we go take a pharmacology. What your boy man tiba could be ase. After one block, na kran semester block. After one block, I'm saying me man ko biom sika na she. But the point in say the language that was being spoken over there, no, na minti ase. And over now you started doing all those. How you getting that so easily? But again, I got to understand. So one, it wasn't my interest. A check me sabe who say yefra on call ni bi wo no and no can me time no crown. So that tells me say if I become a doctor, I would not be the best doctor because from me on call. I'm trying to have my personal life with my family. What do you mean by on call? But again, it comes with the job. So I didn't do my research well. Whoever pushed me didn't realize it's interested in the honor. And African parents, and especially when your parents in the pool. Brothers, sisters now, what areas now, uko uti, and uko bo uti na, or men posing maybe also about a carbon ye be crada, oh my brabim. And you ask yourself, say, why are we like that?
Who's there? A photo do na ye de mani nyina yeah, na nye ni nyina ye de maye na medi tufo. E fa na ye de men to me anye. A me nim se ke ye mame, ana e be ya ma wo, ana medi tufo. What am I saying? And you know, for those people, na make us say they coming from a good place. And say me obi anu no make us say koye course with the intention say koye na wa flop here na say it won't work for you.
Phil, you right? Know somebody that both of us know. Nipa no te apartment wo bi koto if you catch nipa no koto mansion. Onu no nye sika no koto mansion, osa koto condo.
Because onu this sika no hwe be bia e de nenam na.
Onya si nipa no catch on koto mansion no. It's a foot over no.
A foot so they say if your automation now value no be appreciated faster. You know, I'm just trying to make a point to say for the most part, right? Those aunties, uncles, a foot no no. It is not because they want to set us up for failure. They are coming from a good place for the most part. But everyone now it's inconsiderate of your personality and your interest. Yes, that one I agree. But let me blame Omutu for no too much.
Omutu no be hard. Uncles and aunties, me amunya botre. Why? Your friend say, Ebusha for Mr. Rosa, what question? Go ahead and just put a question on. I think so the next 5. Uncle Jimmy, me pacho call the next 5 minutes. The best question and answer. Say we are that there. Yeah, the program now, baby.
Yeah, we did a big contribution. Eddie Kaiveda Miniasi, say. This topic, and I say it's a repeating of you. Even for 3 weeks prank, I would like it. No can in now, papa. If other a form of baby, Vietnam, Mexicans near in Nano, or coffee a can language with your mama. Is there a Ghana for no one to do baby? I say, ye ferret, oh baby, see a kind of cousin. Many men are not for you. Baku 10, Baku 7, Baku 5. Omni men cabro for that. And maybe on Bisham be a name country. Now, many can't me no more baby na Madame Vision. Hey, what's your name was Mijindi of a key. Or the woman must. Tiana dear Kenya more often than not, it depends on the period how we bring this kid up. Oh, bro, from here say. No, bro, from Ukraine, language, you know. The Awoka chief who can say, on the make out. I wouldn't mind so they make country now come bro. I don't care. They make country natural. The more now become at least it will stick to your mind. Into the match and say, ye culture na ye no. As ye ferry culture, no mama ye let's promote it. And it'll be about Ghana December will be on the Granwoko. We're a creditor at the Maye. To make us see any platforms, no. Let's use our culture, our language, and everything to bring our case up.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Lady Smart, we are not there. You're wrapping up.
Oh, okay. Miss any contributions. Dr. Phil, that's a pa. Nyaminshrao. I think say what be nipa bebree adwene mu. I think why are there? But the me kind of say at my first son, and I'm then call appointment. The doctor no or yeah white, American white. Nti me could do all no na me ba ne ye bibi. So we feel say doctor net to nti I have to make brofo because me pese obi hu say di asa na make. Nti no me ka wie no na doctor ne busa me say adenti na make brofo kire me ba no. And I'm busa say because me pese ono so be feel say asam na bia me ka na ho asam bibisa. No say no. Senkra ati say ya obetimi asua na obetimi asua 5 language a bibia nye no like to say because say be confused or very confused and say no enti me ba ne hu bebia me free because to say the ayika no na me try to say me ne me ka akere no enti wa no ma ye di na me kra mani ewu o. I'm like why on so no na ebe kire me de menye won say me try to be say my bad doctor's office so baby mabe wa ba me nche me kan bibe me ba na ye ade nka no o say no ma me nye senti since then to no me hu the second thing ya atade na mo ka ho asem no me share Africa atade ekọ adwuma na bu munim nya me nya sika wo ho no me started the coffee na
Yes.
ayi white no ene obi ase me obi ma no eye ne fe enti do believe say omo ba na metwa omo picture na even office omo just see omo office one obi email to say e dey picture to no obi ahyehyɛ Africa atade. So na first so na come share na me ferry o na come person me share Africa but I didn't know I dey cry ha me one day me cause share Africa atade na me bo duku na me dey kwa adwuma. E ma me nya adwa because me nto so ade but omo measurement e ma me say dey ko Ghana ma me make some money anytime I told them say me ko Ghana obi abe sending the measurement because omo pe Africa didn't know as you guys are saying no yeah yen try say you be promote to ya no my very and
Okay.
biology thing ya no last one me buy yes me koye Nelson to me koye biology class na biology class no say you say okoko drape enti no me dwa wie no within 1 week na me ntimi enidi. So I decided, say no, me cry me what Ghana no accounting na my me pen manager why I say me man for pushing me like you guys saying, oh my ubani koye be fat and do kind of stuff. But a be anka me koye anka me but me koye accounting no etimi aboa me ama nema bia if you say metimi people think say accounting is for white people but so kona so ya eboa pa nti kakra me de
Okay.
ka wono no
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
it. Wait there, Phil. Next week, Nyameboa, right? We'll try to hit hard on the languages, So what time? Our time, Maya. There's all time in the Bay Maya. We'll try because you actually watch it. We'll watch it to be sure about time in your mouth. Yeah, we're trying to. The agenda continues to sana a boy man clear your mouth. Then say a best sporadic. We then dive deep into the language now. Meaning say myth or say a fact to say including double languages in this and a mom struggle with words ni biana se bia bro focus no because now they try to have both languages make I say me baba ko school no your mother no pede or panji also pekosia because du kosia bro for di no nim kosia bro for di to du kosia na waka bo beka bibia pepepe be du kosia no aka kosia to say e free we feel say den ni kosia na kla ni so pekosia and almost egg no it young who say a myth and say fact me sure psychologically no no sure uya navide how disciplining our kids no whether bringing the rod from Africa level no and I say trying to come up with time out talking no dive deep on that side and I know say be yan me to phone be more promising the baby now were raised in belt that kind of level no but next week we'll focus on that it's Michelle so final words be on my within 1 minute 30 seconds wrapping up my na for the director and signing out my now be for what question be Michelle ubetimi the question the crapo ask me or friend say your platform so now busa questions in now say if what question be answer next week now please the question about not the next week busa question in now.
All right. To wrap it up, I just want to say the struggle is real. for both the parents and our wards. Identity crisis is very difficult for them. Having to blend in, having to merge, and also having to have that sense of pride and belonging. It's very difficult to manage it all. Therefore, know how to manage these challenges. They can also come out to be the best person or the best version of themselves. In terms of your entire share, your DDA, all of that. Culture, there are too many dynamics to culture, including language. So yes, I can understand and see where those of us who stress so much on the language, partner comes from. But even about your DDA more, when you go into like an American, predominantly American function, sometimes I'm not saying the Americans know. Wow, Ghana for now, including Umano. Right? Yenya market cheese so all of that, it's broad. It's your identity. In the nutshell, there is no perfect way for one person. Just learn the best from everybody, and then make it the best version for your family.
Thank you, Director David.
Doctor, thank you so much. I think I agree with Uncle Jimmy. I think whether we do it periodically or we have something, another party bet to us, and I think this conversation is forever. It's always continuing because all about Hanem say, and people also live in the diaspora. So many questions. Indeed, I think it's something we like to pick on. So thank you so much for making it time. Based on time constraints and Pacho, we will hold off from TTS questions. Pacho, any tap questions? Let's come to the show on Thursday. I will answer them, but from my team, thank you so much. PK, obviously, thank you so much. That's it for me. To PK, any closing remarks and any shout outs you want to give everybody on the team? That's from my end. Thank you so much.
All right, Director, that's it. So also Timinya that bye. Class. I feel good. That was it. Say make it time and to give us a thorough dissection of this controversial topic now. And I say controversial in the sense it's a little bit controversial for the parents and for the kids too. Producer director will step in and I could see why that was a last minute. Otibi chuti by ebe make bibia kokaba. And producer Lord baby I will be also no your bumper say bibia you okay with you into we know say we take care of business. A-class, Anna, Danny, Nyamishiramo, producers and at large, Sabubu Jumadeke. Now, so that can see a pan viewers, no any listeners. God bless you all for your time. Mr. Ramo, more and some questions in nine, then Mr. Ramo Church questions in two of them. Nan Yameboa next week, Yentimi Busa questions, like I said, in the course of the week, know the question about Krametro to them. Now, Mebusa question on Amao, kama, into the Yesramo. Yeah, the Munyan Ase, Uncle Poncos on Kaya home. Your sponsors so you the money na ask for more support in Mobia. That's an ebese what me say. Ya kramo. Bye bye.
Yankutuna na sio nyameno no. Yanana sie wa maya tamfuati shoko. Hey, dia wa